Sometimes love isn't enough. As an adoptive mom, people would often say this to me, as if to imply I couldn't love my son enough to change behaviors or heal his trauma, so I should probably just give up. At least that's how I took those four powerful words, which had buried themselves deeply in my mind, leading me to doubt my ability to parent my child. Sometimes love isn't enough. That is the truth. Oftentimes, you need love and powerful, personalized tools to raise a child who's experienced trauma and disrupted attachment, or a child who you're struggling to connect with. I am on a mission to help parents raising kids with a tricky past to show up with unconditional love and practical tools to lovingly manage even the most challenging of times. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Plus, if you like what you hear, I'd love for you to leave a review. Now let's get to the good stuff. Welcome back to Sometimes Love Isn't Enough, the podcast for parents who are raising children with exceptionally challenging behaviors, children that they're struggling to connect with. I am your host, Angie Grandt, the adoption coach, and I just love helping parents who are struggling because I have figured it out. I have figured out how to help parents who feel like they have lost hope, parents who are at the end of their rope. I have really helped parents to come out not only with such a better view of their family, but also better connections with themselves, with the other important people in their life, and most importantly, with their child who they're really struggling with. So, without further ado, let's jump into this episode. So, I wanted to kind of tackle this one early on because it comes up so often, and I just feel so strongly about this, and I see it come up so often. So let's jump right into it. Oftentimes, I hear or see parents comment that, well, but I adopted my child at a day old, a week old, within 3 months, whatever time frame that they, adopted their child or their child was placed in their home. And parents will say one of two things. My child can't possibly have attachment difficulties. My child did not experience trauma. Or they'll say, it just doesn't make sense why my child is displaying attachment difficulties when I've been there from day one. And so I wanted to discuss this. And this isn't just my opinion, but there's quite a bit of research out there that shows a few things that I want to outline as a bit of foundation for the things that we'll be talking about here. But so we know that when uh, a, a mother is carrying a child, that several things happen. First of all, we know that genetically much is passed on from mother to child. But we also know that during that time of growth in the womb, a lot of other things happen. We know that when the mother experiences stress, that those stress hormones are passed on to the child. We know that when the mother experiences homelessness or abuse or herself is traumatized while she is pregnant, we know that this has an impact on the development of the baby and, in particular, of their brain. There's research to show that there are differences in babies who experienced challenges while in the womb. But not only that, but we also know that statistically, many children who are placed in an out of home placement are also much more likely to have experienced in utero drug and alcohol exposure while in the womb. And we know that that has an impact on brain development as well. So just with that in utero experience, we already know there are several things that can have a huge impact on our baby's brain. But we also know that that baby also hears mom's voice every day. That baby feels mom's heartbeat, feels her warmth. That baby also hears other people, although it may be muffled through the amniotic fluid, but nonetheless, that is the baby's experience. Everything that happens to them while in the womb is an important experience. They may not have memories that they can conjure up about it, but it is nonetheless an experience that their body and their brain is going through. And we cannot forget that that's part of what our baby went through. But we also know, and there's just so much more talk about this as, uh, research and psychology is just understanding more and more about attachment and trauma and how how the human mind works. We know that the the pure act of the child being in one environment, one family, one set of hormones, all of the things, and then being placed in another, even in the most loving, caring of circumstances, we know that that can have a profound impact on the child's development and ability to connect and attach with others. I recently, over the past year, I've really been listening to experiences from adoptees. I've been looking for um, uh, groups and accounts of people who have experienced the other end of adoption. Because I know my experience as an adoptive mom, I don't know the experience of a biological mom and how hard that must be. I also don't and can't possibly understand the experience of an adoptee. But what I do know is, at least with the ones who are, sharing their experiences, that time after time, adoptees share experiences of struggling to connect with their adoptive parents. Even when their adoptive parents were doing all the right things, they were trying so hard, they loved their kiddo so, so very much. Even in the best of circumstances, adoptees will share how very challenging it was to connect and how much it just was something innate in them that they couldn't think themselves out of. Because many of the ones that I have been listening to and following, they too share that they were adopted as a very tiny infant and have no um, actual recollection of their first family, and nonetheless really struggled to connect. And so I leave you with this thought. I oftentimes leave you with something to put into practice, but for this one, I really just wanted to share what I've been learning, share my perspective, which is highly based in science and research, but to understand that even in the best of circumstances, adoption is trauma. Foster care is is trauma and comes from trauma. And so please, I just ask that you keep this in mind as you're raising your beautiful child who is just trying to figure life out and oftentimes who's acting in ways that can be so unsettling, so confusing. Just I just ask that you remind yourself that your child has experienced trauma and they just want to feel safe and connected too. So, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I would love your feedback and definitely would love a review and a share. I hope that you found this episode so incredibly powerful. Thank you for joining us for Sometimes Love Isn't Enough. If you resonated with what you heard here, please subscribe to this podcast and give us a review. You can also follow us on all the socials. Check the show notes for all the details about how to start tackling behaviors and creating a powerful, loving relationship with your child, a child who needs your love the most. And if your gut's telling you that it's time for a change now, book a free consult. I'd love to help you love unconditionally and show you that you have that power within you.